Thousands of women go on holiday every year, looking for sun, sea, and sometimes romance. A growing number even marry a man they've met abroad.
As soon as I saw him, I just fell in love with him.
It just was a whirlwind, and I was just so smitten with him.
And then spend months getting them a visa.
It took me about 14 months to get him into the country.
They spend a fortune on their new partners.
I was pretty horrified when he arrived with one suitcase. I thought, wow, he's expecting me to just buy him a whole wardrobe of clothes.
But then discover they may not be the only woman in their new man's life.
This is the actual email that he was sending out to hundreds of women.
And shortly after their new husbands' visas arrived, each of the 4 women in this documentary were left wondering if they were the victims of a scam.
He received his British passport on the 5th of December. By the 31st of December, he was booking tickets for Egypt Air to get out of there.
Drum teacher Diane from Staffordshire has a passion for African music.
Drumming is very important to me because when I'm drumming, I don't think about anything else at all.
In 2009, her love of drumming took her on holiday to the Gambia in West Africa.
I'd been playing and learning West African percussion for several years, and a group of us went to Gambia to spend 2 weeks there to study with authentic djembe followers, which is drum masters from Guinea. I'd never seen drums played the way they played them, and the sound was just amazing. So to be in Africa and to see and hear that and experience that was just beautiful.
Then, aged 53, Diane had been single for 5 months, but wasn't interested in romance.
Love and relationships was the last thing on my mind. I was focusing totally on the music, experiencing a new and exciting culture, learning about that.
1, 2, 3, 4.
But everything changed when Diane crossed paths with drum master Mobe.
We'd had a beach party one night, all the students and the musicians, and he approached me from behind and he touched the small of my back. I didn't know who it was, but I remember turning around and being surprised to see that it was him, because it was strangely emotional. The attraction was the music, I think. Meeting somebody so talented in such a different way. When anybody's abroad, I think you sort of enter a different type of personality, if you like. It's different, isn't it? I was on my own, I had no family, I had no ties with me. So I felt very independent and very free, yeah.
After that first trip, Diane and Mobe embarked on a long-distance love affair.
If I thought practically this is likely not to work, I could have said no. But love is like an addiction. I needed to be with him, I wanted to be with him, and when I wasn't with him, it was difficult, and I missed him incredibly. So that to me is what love is. I needed to be with him.
Diane was hooked, but the journey she was beginning was to prove both expensive and heartbreaking. In Norfolk, 49-year-old Michelle also thought she'd found an ideal man while she was abroad.
That's a nice one of him, actually.
It was 2005. Michelle was 40 and working in the Middle Eastern city of Dubai when she met Egyptian deep-sea diver Walid.
I went out there to help a friend of mine with a new business he was starting, which was a commercial diving business, and Walid was a fellow employee.
But whilst Michelle was focusing on her job, 30-year-old Walid was focusing his charms on her.
Walid came across as a really charming, sort of really nice guy, you know, with a future, ambitious. He's a charmer. There's no two ways about it.
Michelle and her English husband had divorced 4 years earlier. She fell in love with Egyptian Walid because he seemed to offer something different.
With our upbringing, we can be a bit cold, but Walid had something which I hadn't had before, whereas they are more emotional. He would say he loved you. He was a very passionate, I would even say. So that actually does reel you in.
Once Walid and Michelle became a couple, she imagined they would start a family and have a long life together.
We were going to travel, we were going to have a child, and we were going to have maybe live for 6 months in the UK and 6 months in Egypt. He painted a wonderful picture of the life we were going to have together.
Just like Michelle, Diane was looking forward to a bright future with Mobe, who she'd met in 2009 in Gambia, a country near to his native Guinea.
He looked after me beautifully. He was very careful, very protective, very attentive. He had the most beautiful smile. He had mentioned marriage, and I was a little bit alarmed. I wasn't naive. I knew that there was a risk that this wasn't genuine.
Almost 2 years after they met, Diane pushed her doubts to one side, and in November 2010, Diane and Mobe got married. But immediately after the wedding, Diane began to question why Mobe had been so keen to marry.
We got back to the hotel and I noticed a change almost that quickly. He was celebrating with his friends, really, and he wasn't celebrating marrying the love of his life or the future in that. He was celebrating his achievement. He'd married a European woman. He now had in his possession a wedding certificate that was almost like the Holy Grail to him. He could hardly let go of it, and he'd achieved everything he could possibly achieve at that point in his life.
Diane and Mobe had decided they'd live in the UK once they were married. As their wedding was recognised in Britain, Diane could now apply for the visa that allowed Mobe to officially make that move.
When I look at the wedding photographs, I was happy, and I honestly thought he was too.
But Diane and Mobe were not destined for a lifelong marriage. In 2007, 2 years after meeting Egyptian Walid, Michelle married him here at Durham Registry Office.
I did love him. I thought the world of him, yeah, I did. I suppose that was a chance of happiness. I felt that I'd found someone that shared my dreams. I can remember walking in hair. I can remember my family sort of being hair, because that's just the memories, I suppose, coming back to me.
Michelle had brought Walid to the UK on a fiancé visa.
I had to convince immigration that, you know, he was basically going to sort of settle with me and stay with me, etc. The fact that he could work, the fact that I could support him initially as a sponsor.
Walid wasn't allowed to work, and she had to decide whether to marry him within 6 months.
If I wouldn't have married him on the fiancé visa, he would have had to go back to his own country. My preference would have been to wait longer, but I actually felt the immigration system itself was pressuring me to marry him. I did what I did, and there's nothing in this whole world that's going to change my decision. But I would have never dreamed in a million years my life would have taken such a turn by making that decision on that day.
Michelle's decision to get married would change her life forever. Holiday love rats know no boundaries. A growing number of women are being promised eternal love, but are then left broken-hearted. Indiana in America is home to 53-year-old Jayne.
I have Lateef's emails and immigration papers.
In 2005, mum of two Jayne was going through a divorce when she started looking at internet dating sites.
Just was kind of wanting to date, see what kind of people were out there. Really don't think I was looking for anything serious. It was more just someone to go out, have fun, go out to dinner, and just enjoy the times.
This all changed when Jayne was contacted by Nigerian Lateef Balogun.
His messages were very romantic. He did a lot of romantic quotes, was very, very sweet.
Then 43, Jayne messaged and spoke to 33-year-old Lateef every day. Lateef claimed to be living in America.
I noticed things were kind of broken with the English, so I asked him, you know, where are you actually from? Because you just don't sound like, you know, you don't speak the same way that I speak. And he admitted that he was born in Africa and said that he lived in Cleveland on a work visa.
When Jayne questioned Lateef further, he told her that he had to return to Nigeria to be with his sick father. But Jayne later discovered that Lateef had always been in Nigeria.
I was fairly new to the internet. I did try to investigate, you know, what type of people came from Nigeria, and I did notice that I'd find a lot of women that would say they couldn't understand why the men from there were so willing to lie to women, and that kind of had my guard up. But I still wanted to believe that, you know, he was being honest with me. And it just, I kind of was a little egotistical about thinking, well, you know, maybe I'm different.
Just over 8 months after first chatting to Lateef, Jayne travelled to Nigeria on holiday to meet her new man for the first time.
Totally fell in love with him during that time, alone with him. And he basically treated me like a queen, waited on me hand and foot. It just was a whirlwind. And I was just so smitten with him.
It was on that first trip in 2006 that Jayne and Lateef got married.
The proposal was actually online before I went. And he actually had the wedding pretty much planned for when I got down there, and that out of registry. It was very romantic, African drums, the whole thing.
After the wedding, Jayne returned to the US alone. Despite now being married, Lateef didn't have the right to enter America. Jayne began a 2-year fight for the visa that would allow her new husband residence in her homeland. But Jayne had no idea what troubles lay ahead. "64-year-old Patricia lives in the Midlands. She suffers from acute osteoarthritis and rarely goes out. In the autumn of 2011, Patricia was feeling lonely and decided to join a dating website.
I was looking for love. I was looking for somebody who I thought I could really love.
29-year-old Mondher from Tunisia got in touch.
When he was messaging me, it was exciting because I thought I'd found the person that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with.
This was Patricia's first time on a dating site, and Mondher seemed to offer everything she was looking for.
When he first contacted me, he was all lovey-dovey. He started telling me he loved me when we'd been talking about 3 weeks, and was asking me to go up there for a holiday.
Mondher convinced Patricia they should be together, despite being from different countries and him being 33 years younger.
I just thought, well, age is just a number. And he kept drilling that into my head. Age is just a number. As long as you love each other, that's all that matters. It made me feel good because he was younger than me, and I thought, well, you know, I can still pull men at that age, you know what I mean? And it just made me feel good.
Despite Patricia's crippling disabilities, within 6 months, she took a holiday to Tunisia to meet Mondher. It was love at first sight.
When I got to the airport in Tunisia, he was there waiting for me. And as soon as I saw him, I just fell in love with him straight away.
Mondher seemed to feel the same way.
I'd been there about 5 days, and he said to me, he says, right, let's get married. Let's do it. I was thinking to myself, I love the guy, you know. So I thought, go for it.
But Patricia's dream of a long and happy life with Mondher was about to turn into a nightmare.
When I look at him now, I think to myself, what a fool I've been. I feel as I've been used, abused, and I made a right fool of myself.
In 2009, African drum teacher Diane fell in love with Mobe. After nearly 2 years, they married in Gambia before beginning life as newlyweds in Diane's Staffordshire home. Almost immediately, money was an issue.
I was pretty horrified when he arrived with 1 suitcase. I thought, wow, he's expecting me to just buy him a whole wardrobe of clothes and has no concept of money.
Diane had paid for Mobe's visa application and was supporting him whilst he looked for work as a musician.
It was very difficult financially, and it caused a lot of problems. He hadn't earned enough money to really contribute to our lives in the household, and when he did earn money, he didn't want to give me any of it.
After paying for everything for 3 years, as well as sending gifts and money to Mobe's family in Africa, Diane said she'd spent thousands of pounds, almost all of her savings.
He went to Guinea again in 2013. I couldn't afford it, so I managed to get enough money together for him to go. When he went, everything changed. I had Skype calls from him and he would say, "Don't contact me," which was very alien to me. He always kept in touch, and I said, "What do you mean, don't contact you? You're my husband, what's happening?"
Mobe stayed in Guinea for 3 months. But just a few weeks after his return, Diane found a letter in Mobe's luggage, which seemed to prove he was planning to end their marriage.
It's a description of how to apply for citizenship without having to be in a marriage any longer. He, of course, said, "I've never seen that piece of paper before in my life," and refused to acknowledge that he knew what it was and was not prepared to tell me who'd written it. And you can imagine my shock at finding that. Awful.
Because musician Mobe had now been married to Diane and resident in the UK for 3 years, he could apply for British citizenship.
He knew that after 3 years of being in any marriage to a British person, he could get British citizenship, which would entitle him to travel throughout Europe freely without a visa.
After discovering the note, Diane confronted Mobe.
Even with me, as patient as that being, he knew time was running out. So eventually he decided to hole himself up in this spare bedroom and live in here, basically. I remember during those days, I was sitting downstairs and he came down and sat on the stairs halfway down, and he just sat on the stairs playing with his tablet. And I remember feeling strangely, desperately sorry for him. Yeah. And I said, why are you sitting there? Come down. But he didn't, he went back upstairs then. But it was so sad, and it was almost like a cry for help, really. And I'll never forget that.
The relationship was over.
There was no turning back, he knew that. He knew there was no turning back then. He just thought he'd done everything he needed to do, and he was ready to get his citizenship. And looking forward to it. Probably as excited about that as he was about the marriage.
Mobe left Diane with his insults ringing in her ears.
He said to me in Susu, "Your mother is an unrepeatable word." A terrible, terrible thing to say to me. That was the last thing he ever said to me. No.
Michelle married her Egyptian husband Walid in 2007. Like Diane, she also paid for a visa that would let him remain in the UK and supported him as he looked for work as a deep-sea diver.
You know, I remember him standing in the lounge one day and he was like, because he wanted this diving course and that, he was really being quite intimidating because he wanted me to get a credit card and because he wanted me to pay for this diving course. So I ended up doing it, and the only reason I did it was because he said he was going to pay me back and that, but there was always a reason in the end through the whole relationship why he couldn't pay it back.
Oh my God, there's so much of it.
But 4 years into their marriage, and just a month after getting his British passport, Walid bought a plane ticket to Egypt and never came back.
He received his British passport on the 5th of December. By the 31st of December, he was booking tickets for Egypt Air to get out of there, to go leave the UK. So that was just that quick. So as soon as he got what he wanted, he was out.
Three years on, Michelle's wounds are still very raw.
A black jacket which I got in my room, he rarely liked aftershave, and for a while there afterwards when he left, I had it in bed with me because I could smell him.
Michelle divorced Walid in October 2012, but while she's still struggling to move on, he has remarried and had a child. Now, after 2 years of silence, he's suddenly back in touch.
Yesterday I got a message. It's so hard to forget somebody who gave you so much to remember, just like on a little banner. I got a message the day before, what was I doing? And then I had a message saying that his daughter had been rushed into hospital and that she nearly died, but I found it all rather strange because if your daughter was ill, why would you be, WhatsApping your ex-wife who you haven't seen for nearly 3 years in the UK?
But if Walid's messages were surprising, his next request was an even bigger shock.
He's told me that his Egyptian wife has died of cancer and basically would I look after his child.
Walid's request has touched on some raw emotions.
But we did try for a child, you see. That's something that isn't going to happen now, so.
Michelle's chance to have children of her own has passed, so Walid's plea for help pulls heavily on her heartstrings.
Why would he be contacting me? He's got family. You know, we're not exactly close now after everything he did. So I just find it very, very odd.
Walid's messages have left Michelle in turmoil. Should she believe him? In Staffordshire, it's been less than a year since Diane's husband made an unexpected exit.
Because of the emotional effect it had on me, I lost 8 teeth at the back. I had alopecia, my hair started to fall out. It's just growing back again nicely now. And I also gained weight. I don't think I'll ever get over it. It is like a bereavement, the emotions that you feel, but it's not like a bereavement because the person that caused this pain, this suffering, is still out there.
Bruised and broken-hearted, Diane's en route to meet a therapist specialising in love and relationships.
I'm hoping it's going to be a little bit cathartic and help me to understand more about what's happened, really.
Donna Dawson wants to help Diane deal with some very painful emotions.
How did he make you feel loved?
That's a good question. It felt so natural. It felt like any courtship.
See, the thing about Western notion of love is that you start off with this kind of blank canvas upon which you project your needs and desires. The person becomes the blank canvas. Your needs and desires go on that. And what we tend to do with our rose-coloured spectacles is disregard anything that doesn't fit. Yes. And of course, when we have to then face the ugly truth, we go into a kind of bereavement for the relationship we thought we had. How do you feel now, looking back on it? What do you take from it?
I've got anger.
Sure.
I'm much better health-wise now because I was physically and mentally a mess. I'm guilty. I feel guilty. I feel sad.
You can't fully be blamed because you actually saw a progression there that you could believe in. You've got to hold your head up high and say, I went in that with best intentions.
A good person, yeah.
And you, my darling, you are going to be okay.
Yes.
You will be.
I feel quite cleansed to a degree, and a lot more confident. I feel far more ready and prepared to move on now and to enjoy my life more, I think, and enjoy me more.
Patricia, who is chronically disabled, says she knew she loved Tunisian Mondher from the first moment she saw him on holiday in 2011.
He was promising to be with me here and he was going to treat me like a princess, buy me anything I wanted, to go on holidays. He was promising to get a car, take me anywhere I wanted to go. He was promising me everything.
Mondher, then 26, proposed to Patricia, who was 60, on their first holiday together. After another 2 trips, in November 2012, Patricia married him in Tunisia.
On my wedding day, when they was reading the vows, I felt so happy. I was treated like a princess by my husband's parents. They were very, very good to me. It was a woman's dream to go to a different country and marry a younger man. It was wonderful. I was really, really happy.
But it wasn't just Patricia who was being treated. She's a pensioner and says the wedding cost her hundreds of pounds.
I had to pay for everything in Tunisia. Well, I paid for the wedding rings. I had to pay for a sheep that they slaughtered for the food for the wedding.
After the wedding, Patricia returned to the UK alone. She had to wait for Mondher to get a visa to allow him to join her in the Midlands.
Didn't want to leave him because I fell that much in love with him.
8 months later, Mondher secured a visitor's visa and travelled to the UK. But it was far from the emotional reunion Patricia had longed for.
He didn't have much communication with me at all. It was like as if once he'd married me, that was it. I felt like I was second best. Having Mondher in the house was a nightmare. He'd have an argument with me if I spoke to my daughter on the phone. The marriage wasn't good with him living here.
But Mondher's visa was running out, and Patricia refused to pay for another to allow him to stay in the UK for longer.
He kept getting on at me because I hadn't got £2,000 to go and get him a visa to stay in the country.
Less than a fortnight after arriving in the Midlands, Mondher told Patricia he was leaving.
He said, I want to go to Portsmouth, stay with my friend. So he says, can you give me some money, some fare to get up there? I was gutted. I was well gutted.
Patricia's marriage was over, almost before it had begun, but Mondher stayed in the UK for another year. In 2014, Patricia says the police told her he'd been arrested because his visa had expired and that he was in a detention centre. It was during this time Patricia received a message from Mondher asking for money.
I don't have no penny, baby, to buy some stuff at myself. If you can send me £100. I don't have no one to help me in your country, just you, baby.
Patricia hasn't given Mondher any more money. Instead, she wants him out of her life and out of the UK.
I just want him to get out of the country and move on with his life and don't have no contact with me ever again.
In Staffordshire, Diane's still dealing with the legacy of her marriage to Mobe. He arrived in the UK in 2011. It was at this time that Diane saw evidence making her think Mobe could be in a relationship with another woman whilst married to her.
Shortly after Mobe arrived in the UK, he asked me to open his email, and jumping out at me was an email that he'd sent to a lady in Holland. Of course, by this time we were married, and the email was written in English, and it was exactly the same as the emails that he used to send to me that were promises of love and devotion. They were tools, you know, they were grooming tools, if you like. So I challenged him about it and said, this is a love letter, you know, to this lady in Holland. And of course he denied it and said he didn't write it, it wasn't him, because that's what they do. And I had to take it on the chin, really, because by that time we were married, the commitment was made, he was here in the UK.
But Mobe was in contact with more than just one other woman.
He had lots of conversations with a Guinean lady who lived in Italy, and I questioned that frequently.
Diane also received an apology from a woman in Wales who said she was addicted to Mobe.
She rang me to tell me, I don't know why, she rang me to tell me she'd been having an affair with him.
Diane also believes the woman was in Guinea with Mobe when he spent 3 months there, just before he left her.
I'd helped her to arrange her trip and supported her with that, not knowing that she was having an affair with my husband whilst I was doing that. That was an awful, awful time for me. He had once said to me during the marriage, I want more children, and I'd said to him, well, how are you going to do that then? Because he knew I would never have any more children. And he just looked at me and didn't know what to say because he knew he'd said something rather silly and foolish. And I said, how are you going to do that? And how are you going to have more babies? And he said, you think I'm going to leave this planet with no more babies? I said, well, yeah, okay, how are you going to do it? And I said, are you waiting for me to die?
Michelle's ex-husband is playing on her emotions. Out of the blue, he's told her his new wife is dead and has asked her to look after his baby.
Let's ring him.
Michelle wants to speak to Walid directly to work out whether he's telling the truth or if he's got another agenda. He's agreed to be available at 5 o'clock.
Call failed us, Sam. Maybe he's cut me off. That was a bit like that in my marriage at times. You know, he let you down.
Without talking to Walid, Michelle may never know if he's telling the truth.
That's hard for somebody like me who's so straightforward and, you know, probably a bit too honest sometimes.
In Staffordshire, Diane's meeting her friend David.
Hello, David.
Hi, Diane.
He's spent a lot of time in Gambia and has heard local men discussing how best to get into a relationship with Western women.
Used to sit around in huddles discussing this for hours. First of all, how do you find a woman? Mm-hmm. What age range do you go for? Mm-hmm. What are the easiest to attract? And then once you're in England, stories would come back about how you manipulate things in England and how you go about it. So they used to sit around for hours and discussing these, you know, processes that they'd go through.
Nearly 6 years after her first trip to the Gambia, Diane's reassessed her experience and what she thinks Mobe's motives were.
What he did was massive. He left his friends, his family, his culture, his music, his life. Even the food that he ate, he left it all behind to be here in the UK. Not as I thought to be with me, but to be in the UK, hopefully make a good amount of money to send home to build a house for his terribly impoverished family in a third world country and to care for them and look after them. And that was his aim. I always thought that it was me, but looking back, it wasn't.
In Norfolk, Michelle is also counting the cost of her marriage to Walid. He left a shocking surprise.
When he left, he said, don't open my bank statements and my credit card statements. So I smelt a dirty big rat straight off. So I opened them.
Walid left debts of over £9,500.
Oh, it's just so much here. This one, 3,281.85. Oh, 6309, which was, I think, was connected with his phone contract. Then I got stuff to do with doorstep debt collection notices.
The bills are in his name, but Michelle is still affected.
It would appear that there's been a link made between my credit and his, so that's affected my credit rating. I can't do anything. I can't really even fix my place up or anything. I can't do anything now. He's sort of even messed that up for me. All my hopes and dreams have gone down the drain now at the moment.
Michelle isn't the only woman to suffer financial damage as a result of her failed marriage to a love rat. Diane has also lost valuable assets.
He lost a very expensive pen, he lost a laptop that I gave him at one point that disappeared, a video camera. Oh, it's endless the amount of things that he lost. Everything, really. And he would say that material things didn't mean anything to him, but...
American Jayne says she spent thousands of dollars on the legal fees for her Nigerian husband's entry visa. But less than 8 weeks after Lateef legally arrived in America, Jayne made a startling discovery.
This is the actual email that he was sending out to hundreds of women.
Jayne saw on her computer that Lateef had sent an identical email to almost 100 different women.
Hello, everybody is talking about love, but how many of us knows what love really is? Love is not about finding the right person alone, but also creating a right relationship. My name is Lateef. I just got to the USA from Africa and I live in Indiana. but I want to meet a serious woman who would like to have a strong and loving relationship. I'm married but not happy with her. I believe she is my lover, not my soulmate.
This discovery meant there was no going back.
I immediately contacted him to ask him what was going on, and he denied and stated that it was his brother. At this point, the believability was gone. There was nothing he was going to do that was going to convince me that he was not actually the one doing it, because it was right there in front of my face. It was very devastating. It was a case of, I really can't believe I fell for this the whole time, and that I fought family and friends for 2 years. And you find out that, no, he really was lying the whole time.
Jayne made Lateef leave and filed for divorce. But despite now being divorced, Lateef can legally remain in the US for at least 10 years.
Angry. Oh, I was so angry that I'd spent this much time and this much money to bring him here, for him to have lied the whole time. Was just awful. Just an awful feeling.
Michelle's world was turned upside down when her Egyptian husband left just a month after receiving his British passport. Motivated by her sense of injustice, Michelle has started a campaign called Stop UK Marriage Fraud to help people who feel they were fooled into fake marriages.
I couldn't do that to anybody, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to basically raise awareness in the public domain and tell people what's going on.
Thank you for coming back today.
Today, Michelle's meeting barrister Paula Roan Adrian to discuss the current immigration laws, which Michelle thinks offer little protection.
Previously, the period of time to get a visa was 2 years in which the application could be made, and that's been extended to 5 years.
There doesn't seem to be much focus on actually what happens after they get British citizenship.
You can be in a relationship with someone for years, and who's to say that if they do go before the courts, that they can't persuade the court that the relationship naturally came to an end?
I actually went to my MP, who actually wrote to the Chief Constable. They sent 2 CID officers round. They discussed what happened with me. The fact he left a month after British citizenship, they actually took no action.
Oh, Michelle, I know that this is frustrating, but you've got to advise all your followers that they should do the same, because remember, indefinite leave to remain and citizenship can now be revoked due to the new law. Although I have to be honest with you and say that I don't know of any case in a situation like yours that has gone to court and succeeded.
It's frustrating news for Michelle, but she's determined to make a difference. Sadly, Michelle's is a story that is reflected around the world. Jayne reported her ex-husband to the US immigration authorities, but believes he is still in America.
Oh, this is messy. I would pick a messy food, huh?
Despite this, Jayne and her sons, Evan and Kyle, are returning to the normality of life without him.
I mean, we really tried to welcome him and give him a chance, but, I mean, you can't change who a person is just because you welcome them into your home.
Lateef hasn't responded to any of the allegations.
Looking back, I wanted to believe that he was telling me the truth. I think I'm strong enough now to know better. Now I know what his personality really is and what he's really like. And no, I couldn't go through it again. I couldn't put my family through it again. I would have to tell anyone that's been through anything similar, hold your head up. It's not your fault, and you can't just hide in a hole afterwards. You have to fight back.
Like Jayne, Patricia, who is disabled and living on a pension, is also trying to move on and forget all about her Tunisian husband.
All the time I was with Mondher, he never once bought me a bunch of flowers, box of chocolates, nothing. I had to pay for everything. I'd rather him be back in Tunisia so he can move on with his life, and so can I.
Patricia wants a divorce, But having already spent thousands on holidays, flights for Mondher and a wedding in Tunisia, she wants to know if she can afford it.
How are you? Pleasure
I'm
to
fine,
meet you.
thank you.
She's visiting her local solicitor to see what a divorce might cost.
I wanted to know about a divorce. How would I go about it and how much, you know, is it going to cost?
The way to get a divorce would be by way of petitioning in the county court. Court costs are generally £410 to do this. We do a fixed fee that starts from about £650 plus VAT.
I'm only on a pension.
It's not the result Patricia was hoping for, but there is some fresh news about Mondher. Patricia now believes he is back in Tunisia.
He's at my life now. I can just get on with my own life now.
But even though Mondher has left Patricia, she is still married to him, and without any way of paying for a divorce, she's stuck in her failed marriage. When asked to comment, Mondher said his marriage to Patricia collapsed due to circumstances beyond his control, that he loved Patricia and that he didn't come to England for money. Diane reported Mobe to the police and believes he is now working in Italy. Despite her failed marriage, she has rekindled her love of African music, but has come to a damning conclusion on her decision to marry Mobe.
I made that decision based on what I believed to be the truth. I made that decision based on the fact that we were in love, based on the fact that we had a future together. And the foundations of that were all lies. So that sort of relinquishes me of some of the guilt and responsibility I in the past have taken on board.
Mobe has been sent these allegations, but hasn't responded. We also contacted Michelle's ex-husband, Walid, who hasn't told us his side of the story. 5 months after Walid renewed contact with Michelle, she doesn't want to allow her husband back into her life. She may have longed for children, but she has decided Walid will have to look after his own baby.
I've got no sympathy for him whatsoever. I think he can rot in hell. But the little girl, I feel sorry for. If she's not got a little mum, you know, her mum, I feel sorry for the little girl. Not him, no. Nothing for him. No, he deserves all he gets.